Hello and welcome to a special edition of The Big Fight, coming to you from the Gujarat Vidyapeeth in Ahmedabad. This is the second part of our series that we are doing just before the Gujarat elections. Last week we took a look at some of the politics. Now the business and the economics. Is there a specific model that Narendra Modi has been able to follow in Gujarat, which has totally changed this place, which has set it on a new path, which has made it a really efficient administration? And is that a model that other parts of the country now need to take a look at? Or, as some of his critics say, is it largely marketing and PR hype, and it's not really the case? The lessons that we draw from Gujarat will be important, perhaps even in the run-up to the 2014 elections. So it is important to really analyze them closely. And we're being joined by a fantastic panel to help us do that. I'd like to start off by welcoming Dr. Darshini Mahadevia, who's a professor at the Faculty of Planning and Public Policy. She's also been worked in a large number of other areas, such as the Center for Urban Equity. It's fantastic to have you with us. Sunil Alag, one of India's best-known industrialists. He's been was the CEO of Britannia earlier. Now he's an independent marketing consultant, member FICCI, represents corporate India in many, many ways. Hemant Shah is a professor of economics at the HK College of Arts right here in Ahmedabad. It's great to have you with us. Zafar Sareshwala, CEO of Parsoli Corporation Limited, also runs a large BMW dealership here in Ahmedabad and is very influential in Gujarat. Dr. Gaurang Jani is a professor at the Department of Sociology at Gujarat University. It's fantastic to have you with us. Finally, Sanjay Majumdar, industrialist, chartered accountant. Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Fight as well. Right. Sunil Alag, can I just briefly start with you? When you talk to most people in corporate India, they quite often come out and say, oh, you know what Narendra Modi is doing in Gujarat, isn't that fantastic? Isn't that brilliant? I wish all chief ministers could be like that. I wish our prime minister could be like that. And then there's a discreet hint that is thrown in 2014. Are some of those statements overdone a bit?
You know, let me just start by saying, what does industry look for when you go into a state or into a country? You look for good infrastructure, you look for skilled labor, you look for good labor relations, you look for a stable environment, and above all, you look for no corruption. And on all counts, I think when you compare Modi to everybody else, or you compare the Gujarat government to all other states, and now one or two states are coming up, it scores amazingly, it's in favor of Gujarat. Now, some people may argue whether it's the most developed state, whether it's the least, or whether it's in the top three, it doesn't matter. And we all look for these issues, and all these issues are there.
You're saying that you think in Gujarat there's this perfect, brilliant model that should be replicated.
No, I don't think there's anything as perfect in the world. Why only in Gujarat? But when you are in a comparative situation, why do people go to China instead of India? Why do you go to X country or the other? You always say it's better than the rest.
Okay.
And Gujarat leads the way. There's no question in my mind on that score.
Dr. Mahadevia?
Well, Gujarat has been leader in the economic growth for, I think, centuries. I think in 500 years back, Ahmedabad funded the Mughal trade. The first local industry that came up, the textile mill, was in Ahmedabad with the indigenous capital. So there is nothing new about Gujarat being industrial leader. It has always been an industrial leader. In 1960, Gujarat was eighth in industrialization. It has, in two decades, it came to second position. So I don't think anything new has been done in the current regime, because this has been the culture of Gujarat. And what Modi has probably done is he has built the personality cult around high growth issue. I mean, basically it's a political game that he's playing to project himself at the national level.
Sunil?
You know, look, I cannot take away from the fact that Gujaratis are, right, by nature, hardworking, entrepreneurial, everything else. But what is the leader required for? The leader becomes a facilitator where it allows a state or its people to bloom. A bad leader, in spite of having good people, brings it down. So what has happened is, how is Ahmedabad regarded by Forbes magazine as the third fastest growing city in the world in 2010? Something has changed. You can't just say that, oh, this is where we're doing it for centuries. Their growth over the last 10 years has been the highest ever. So you can't just take away from the fact that there hasn't been a good facilitator in the game.
Okay, Hemant Shah?
If you go through the figures which are being published by the government of Gujarat, the average annual growth rate of SDP or say GDP of Gujarat is around 10% or 9.5%. in the previous 2 decades, that is 1980s and 90s, the rate of annual growth in Gujarat was more than 13% or 14%. So nothing new about that. And so far as the structure of the economy is concerned, when Modi took over in the year 2001, the share of agriculture in total SDP of Gujarat was 14%, and it still remains 14% after a decade. So there is no structural change in Gujarat's economy. So far as the development is concerned, the model itself is something, quite doubtful.
No. I disagree with that. The net domestic product of Gujarat, if you take in the 80s, was 10.58%. In the 90s, it's 11.46%. And in 2000 to 2010 is 13.2%. And
you're
these are
looking
figures
at per capita, right? But
India.
if you look at GDP, his point is that actually
I'll
it
give
was
you GDP.
14% in the
On the
80s,
contrary.
went to 16.
I'll give you
then
GDP 14% in the 80s, 16% in the 90s, and it's
and back to
14%.
The GDP in the 2000s was lower than it was
No,
in the
I would tell
1990s.
you what the per capita
and these
figures.
are the figures given in the government of Gujarat's publications.
No, from the RBI publication, if you look at the per capita NSDP, that is per capita state income, Gujarat is 7th among the 20 large states. So it's not any fantastic achievement in terms of the way it is projected. It was 3rd in 2005. And it was 4th in 93-94. On the contrary, in the last 15 years, Gujarat's rank in per capita income has come down.
Zafar, let me turn to you, because you were somebody who was at one point in 2002 and 2003 a major critic of Narendra Modi. You then went, met him, had a complete change of heart, if you like, and then finally you have been saying for a while now that the sort of leadership that he provides is the leadership that is required. Why do you feel that way?
It is typically a Muslim issue, 2002 riot and the situation at that particular point of time. There was a vacuum, if people remember those days, there was a vacuum between the administration and the Muslims of Gujarat. You needed some engagement with the government of the day. So that whole idea of meeting Modi and initiating a dialogue, our idea was that you cannot live in isolation. You need a dialogue with the administration, and that's how this whole process started. Our idea was, at that point of time, was to talk with the government of the day, and Modi was the chief minister.
No, but in the years since then, you've come earlier also on the big fight, you've become one of the people who says that no, the way he is governing the state is the right way to govern the state. He's bringing development. You're in a sense shares some of Sunil Alag's views.
My issue is very Muslim-centric, which I'll say. Gujarat, if you go in the past, has been epicenter of worst riots occurred in the country. 1969, 85, 87, 90, 92. And every single riot affects the Muslims in 2 ways. One, Muslims were the direct victims, and the biggest thing which people forget about it is the aftermath of the riots. That is, every riot would have a curfew, business loss, atmosphere of tension, and the brunt would always be felt by the Muslims. Now, this is the first decade in my lifetime of what I know of 30 years, first decade where Gujarat has been riot-free, tension-free.
No. Yeah,
Between 2002 and 2012, there is not a single riot occurred. There was not a single day of curfew. This is what an average Muslim wants.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.